discover the incredible revelation of Archangel Michael, God's mighty warrior in sacred battles. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. As the people of Israel faced the crushing weight of exile, one faithful servant of the Lord stood resolute in his commitment to seek God's face. Daniel, a young man of noble lineage, carried the burden of his people's fate upon his heart. The streets of Babylon lay shrouded in the shadows of despair. The cries of the displaced echoed through the heart of the city, and yet Daniel remained steadfast in his promise to Yahweh. The evening sun dipped low in the Babylonian sky, casting long shadows across the sun-baked stones as Daniel retreated to his chamber, its walls adorned with fragments of his heritage. He knelt before the open window, the bustling city fading behind him, and began to earnestly intercede for the nation. His prayers were a tapestry woven with threads of hope and desperation, lifting his fervent requests to the heavens, believing that God still heard the cries of his people. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Daniel's spirit began to waver under the weight of his supplication, the air crackled with a heaviness that belied the unseen warfare progressing in the heavenly realms. The prince of the kingdom of Persia, the formidable spirit standing against Israel, sought to thwart the divine purpose ordained for God's people. While Daniel prayed with pressing urgency, the powers of darkness clashed violently above him, the resolve of a faithful heart against the forces of evil manifesting in a struggle unseen. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted, and a celestial figure burst forth, radiant, glorious, and terrifying. It was Archangel Michael, the great prince assigned to protect the children of Israel. His presence was a beacon of divine light, radiating hope amid despair. "Do not be afraid, Daniel," Michael spoke, his voice both powerful and soothing, echoing through the corridors of time. "From the first day you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words were heard. I have come because of your words." As Daniel beheld the heavenly messenger, understanding dawned upon him. The battle fought among realms mirrored the turmoil endured on earth by his beloved nation. Michael's presence affirmed that in the deepest shadows of spiritual warfare, God had not abandoned his covenant community. Yet as Michael continued, the urgency of his mission became clear. "I was hindered by the prince of Persia," he confessed, the weight of conflict evident in his voice. "But now I must return to battle against him." The revelation filled Daniel with renewed resolve. His prayers had unleashed the very forces of heaven, igniting a holy courage deep within him. He grasped the reality that the tapestry of God's plan was woven with conflict, redemption, and promise. The clash of heavenly hosts against evil forces unfolded before him, an image of divine sovereignty that transcended earthly limitations. Yet Daniel's heart harbored deep questions. What would become of his people? As Michael prepared to ascend back into the thicket of battle, he imparted instructions to Daniel, calling him to persevere in faith. The weight of the unfulfilled promises loomed large, mingling with hope as Daniel looked upon the open sky, his longing mingling with fervent cries for restoration. As the chapter closed, the air thick with tension, Daniel remained steadfast in faith. He clung to the hope that, even amid chaos, the great warrior Michael might return, bringing divine intervention, altering the fate of nations, reaffirming God's steadfast love for his people. In the days that followed, Daniel remained in his chamber, enshrouded in prayer and contemplation. The city of Babylon, once so vibrant, now resonated with the spirit of exile. Each morning, he awoke to the sound of distant weeping, each whisper of the wind, a reminder of his people's plight. The remnants of Jerusalem haunted his thoughts, the temple's songs of worship replaced by the clang of Babylonian idolatry all around him. As the months passed, a darkness loomed over him like a heavy veil, yet Daniel's resolve did not wane. He journeyed to the place of prayer each day, imploring the Lord to reveal his purposes, to send forth his deliverance. The weight of the world pressed upon him, yet as he sought unceasingly, he found his heart swelling with the words of the psalmist, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." Psalm 34:18. Then, in a night very much like the last, Daniel dreamt a troubling dream, a vision that stirred not only his spirit but struck fear into his heart. He saw a great ram with two powerful horns, one higher than the other, but it charged with ferocity across the plains. Following it was a goat with a notable horn, darting forth and shattering the ram's strength in a violent clash. Awakening with a start, Daniel's mind raced as he recalled the prophecies regarding empires yet to rise. He felt the tremors of divine significance within the vision. "Oh Lord," he whispered, "what does this mean?" As dawn began to break, illuminating the chamber with golden light, the same celestial figure he had seen before, the Archangel Michael, stood once more before him. The magnificent warrior's stature was imposing, yet comforting, a reminder of divine authority and protection. "Daniel," Michael called, his voice slicing through the morning stillness, "I have returned to you, for the vision you experienced holds the key to what shall come to pass in the latter days. The kingdoms of men shall rise and fall, but the sovereignty of the Most High shall endure." "What must I do?" Daniel asked, his heart racing, for he understood the gravity of the revelation. "Write down the vision and seal it for the time to come," Michael instructed solemnly, "for it pertains to the end, the rise of the kings of the north and south, and the struggles of God's people. You shall not see it fulfilled in your days, but heed my words. Your prayers have pierced the heavens, and they are not in vain." With that, Michael lifted his hand, and Daniel felt the empowerment of the Spirit of God sweep over him. His fear began to transform into strength, for he understood that God's purposes extended far beyond his earthly trials, reaching into realms unseen. He grasped a quill, the ink flowing as swiftly as the visions coursed through his mind, depicting scenes of conflict, victory, and ultimate redemption. As he penned the words, a sudden peace enveloped him. The destiny of Israel intertwined with the unfolding narrative of the empires that would rise, and there was hope threaded through every line he wrote. A divine pattern was taking shape, and though it was fraught with adversity, it was laced with the promise of restoration. And then, with a mighty sound resonating through the heavens, Michael prepared to depart. "Fear not, Daniel, for the end of the days shall herald the arrival of God's chosen deliverer, a mighty ruler whose reign will be everlasting. Even now, I turn my sword against the forces of malaise, for the Lord's plans are greater than you know." As Michael vanished into the radiance, Daniel possessed a renewed sense of purpose. He had grasped a profound truth. Though kingdoms might crumble and oppression press upon his people, God reigns sovereign over all. With his heart afire and his spirit renewed, Daniel rose from his chamber, ready to face the darkness that besieged his people. Yet even as he stepped into the world outside, he pondered the words of the angel. How would God's chosen deliverer manifest? What trials awaited and what battles would he endure? He could only await the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, knowing that even amid turmoil, the promise of hope danced on the horizon. The great story of redemption continued, and Daniel remained poised to witness the hand of God move across the tapestry of time. In the days that followed, Daniel moved through the streets of Babylon with a heart kindled by the revelation he had received. Each step became an act of faith, each glance a reminder of the covenant God had established with his people. He gathered with the other exiles, sharing the truth unveiled to him, urging them to find solace in the knowledge that the Most High reigns supreme. Yet as he spoke words of hope, the shadows of despair lingered nearby. The throne of Nebuchadnezzar loomed, a constant reminder of their captivity, and the mention of the king's edicts stirred discontent among the people. Daniel witnessed how fear gripped many hearts, for the alliances forged with Babylon were tenuous at best, and the whispers of rebellion filled the corners of their gatherings. On one such day, as the sun cast a warm glow upon the weary, Daniel received news of a troubling decree. The king had commanded that all those who refused to worship the image he had erected would face punishment by fire. It was a trial that would test the faith of his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Without hesitation, Daniel sought them out, his spirit aflame with urgency. "Brothers," he spoke, his voice resolute, "you must stand firm. Our God is able to deliver us, for his power surpasses that of Babylon. Remember the visions I have received. They are not mere tales but proclamations of our enduring deliverance." The three men gathered, and though their bodies trembled at the thought of the furnace, their spirits soared at the reminder of God's faithfulness. "O Daniel," one replied, "we will not bow down to this image. Our God whom we serve is able to save us, but even if he does not, we will not forsake our faith." Their declaration rang true in Daniel's ears, a chorus of faith echoing throughout the heavens. He implored the Lord in earnest prayer, seeking the strength and courage needed in the face of impending trial. The sense of the divine presence enveloped him, and he was reminded of Moses before the Red Sea, when the Lord instructed him, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today." Exodus 14:13. In the days leading up to the edict's fulfillment, whispers of their defiance reached the ears of the king. The fiery pit was prepared, and the tension grew like the heat of the flames themselves. Yet Daniel remained undeterred, knowing that the true battle belonged to the Lord. He seized this moment to gather believers, strengthening their resolve with prayers, reminding them of God's promises, and on the day of reckoning, as the king summoned them to bow before his image, not a knee bent, nor a heart surrendered. The fires roared hot, and in that moment of greatest peril, the heavens opened, revealing a celestial presence. Even the king noted the fourth figure appearing amidst the flames, like a son of the gods, walking unscathed with the faithful. Daniel 3:25. Spirit echoed in the heart of Daniel as he saw the hope of his people manifest in this marvelous deliverance. Witnessing their courage strengthened his understanding of God's eternal plan. The hand of the Lord was moving, and the very foundations of Babylon trembled beneath the weight of his glory. There in the furnace, a divine encounter unfolded that would mark history, an undeniable affirmation of God's promise. He is ever present in the fire of trials. But even beyond this miraculous event, Daniel mused, what future adversities would arise? How would the kingdom of God be revealed next in the form of divine redemption? He knew then, as he did now, the narrative of God's sovereign plan was not yet finished, and he was but a humble servant in a greater unfolding story. What purpose would be revealed in the hearts of all who believed, as the tale of their deliverance echoed through the ages? The divine architecture of God rested upon their world, and only time would reveal its full extent. As the flames dimmed and the smoke cleared, Nebuchadnezzar beheld the miracle before him, his heart torn between rage and amazement. He proclaimed with a voice that quaked across the court, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him." Daniel 3:28. The king's decree of fiery judgment transformed into a testament of divine power as he issued a new edict. Any people, nation, or language that speaks against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins, for there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way. Daniel 3:29. It was a proclamation cut from the fabric of fear, tempered by a newfound reverence. In the aftermath, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood unharmed, their garments untouched, the smell of fire absent from their bodies. Daniel rejoiced, for God's deliverance was a beacon of hope for the exiles. Yet his heart was stirred with a profound sense of duty. The faith of these men had not only declared their allegiance to God but shifted the very atmosphere of Babylon. Days turned to weeks, and the faithful began to gather around Daniel, recognizing in him the voice of the Lord among them. The stories of their miraculous deliverance rippled through the hearts of the captives, igniting flames of faith across the exiled community. For the Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exult over you with loud singing. Zephaniah 3:17. These words became a cherished promise. Yet, while they found strength in their divine deliverance, Daniel felt a weight upon his spirit, a pressing urgency as if a shadow loomed on the horizon. He sought the Lord in prayer, yearning for further revelation. "Show me, O Lord," he pleaded, "the depth of your plans for us. What comes next in the tapestry of our lives?" One night, as the stars aligned in their celestial dance, a vision consumed Daniel. The heavens opened, and he encountered a figure, brilliant and majestic, radiating glory. The voice that flowed from the figure was as a rushing river, powerful and resonant. "Daniel, man greatly beloved," spoke the angelic host, "understand the words that I speak to you, for the time is at hand. Your prayers have been heard, and the purpose of the Most High will be revealed." In awe, Daniel fell prostrate, overwhelmed by the divine presence. "What shall be the end of these wonders?" he inquired, struggling to grasp the magnitude of such heavenly revelations. The angel continued, "In the latter days nations will rise and fall. Kings will contend for power, and the faith of the people will be tested as never before. Yet remember, for you are chosen, and your role is vital in this unfolding saga. For the one who stands beside you, the Prince of Heaven, shall wage war against the principalities of darkness." With these words echoing in his heart, Daniel knew that God's sovereign plan extended far beyond the immediate fiery trial. A greater battle lay ahead, one that would test not only their fidelity, but the very fabric of faith itself. As the dawn approached, Daniel rose with renewed strength, knowing that even as they endured, a greater purpose was unfolding. The hearts of the faithful would be tried, forged like gold in the fire, and from this fire, a lineage of devotion would emerge. What then would God accomplish through his servant Daniel? What battles would lie ahead that called for divine intervention? And how would the legacy of faith echo through the corridors of time? The answers awaited, hidden yet deeply anticipated in the divine orchestration of God's unfolding story. In the days that followed Nebuchadnezzar's decree, the atmosphere in Babylon was charged with a mixture of awe and dread. The fire of faith ignited by Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's deliverance spread like wildfire among the exiles, yet Daniel discerned the trepidation that cloaked his people. He often found himself immersed in thought, pondering the fate that awaited them. One fateful evening, as dusk enveloped the city, Daniel resumed his prayers, seeking solace in the unwavering truth of God's promises. "O Lord of hosts," he prayed with fervent heart, "may your hand be upon your servants, and let your will be done upon the nations of the earth." As his words ascended to the heavens, a flicker of light manifested beyond his perception, captivating his spirit. Once more, the angelic figure whom he had encountered before appeared, enveloped in a luminescent aura, filling the chamber with divine glory. The air shimmered as the celestial presence spoke. "Fear not, Daniel, for I have come again to reveal the mysteries of God's plan." "Great One," Daniel replied, trembling with reverence, "what is this that is to come upon the earth?" The angel continued, "The conflict shall intensify, for the battle rages in unseen realms where the powers of darkness seek to snuff out the light of God's chosen ones. These trials are needed to purify the saints, as gold is refined in the furnace. For through adversity the faithful shall turn their eyes to the heavens and be strengthened." "And what shall be our part in this?" Daniel implored, seeking understanding. "You are part of a greater purpose," the angel said. "In those days when the blasphemies of kings fill the earth, the heart of the Most High shall stir. The Archangel Michael shall arise, champion of your people. He shall stand before the throne of God on your behalf, contending against the forces that seek to enslave my children." Daniel's heart raced at the mention of Michael, the mighty warrior from the heavenly realm, the one who had fought against the Prince of Persia. "Will you tell me more? What shall he do?" "Indeed, Daniel," the angel replied, "as the dawn breaks upon the earth, Michael shall emerge as a sign of hope. He shall rally the faithful, reminding them of God's unwavering covenant. For in those tumultuous days, the promises shall be fulfilled, and the remnants of Israel shall be restored. Great tribulation will usher in ultimate victory, and the faithful shall shine like stars in the firmament. Daniel's soul soared at this revelation, yet a weight of responsibility pressed upon him. If these things are to come, how shall we prepare? Live in faithfulness and stay rooted in prayer, the angel instructed. For when the trials come like a tempest, those who await the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31. With these words echoing through his spirit, Daniel felt a surge of conviction. He would not falter. He would stand firm, a beacon of truth in a land of chaos. As the celestial vision began to wane, the angel concluded, "Know that all things are in the hands of the Almighty. The heart of the king is in his sovereign control. Be steadfast, for the time is coming when all shall see his glory revealed." With the morning light breaking over Babylon, a sense of divine purpose enveloped Daniel, his heart burning with the assurance that the story of faith was far from complete. What further wonders awaited them? How would the archangel's mission intertwine with their destiny? In the depths of their trials, God's sovereign hand was leading them, and the thread of their faith would weave a tapestry of redemption that even now was beginning to unfold. In the days that followed the angel's visitation, the spirit of Daniel became increasingly attuned to the divine orchestration surrounding him. Babylon, an empire of gold and decadence, contrasted sharply with the faithful remnant that clung to the promises of the Almighty. Daniel felt the weight of his people's plight, their cries mingling with his prayers, pleading for deliverance. One night, as he meditated upon the scrolls of prophecy, he was stirred by a sudden urgency in his spirit. The air was thick with expectation, and he discerned that a new revelation was about to unfold. He arose and prepared to seek the Lord in prayer, imploring him to reveal his purposes for Israel at such a time as this. "O Lord," he cried, "you are a God of truth and faithfulness. Show me the way for your people, and grant us courage amidst the shadows of oppression." As he sought the Lord, a whirlwind of light engulfed the room, and the same angel appeared before him, this time with a countenance that shimmered like the dawn. "Daniel," the angel's voice resonated with clarity, "your prayers have ascended to the throne of grace, and I am here to reveal the vision that is to come." "What do you show me, O heavenly messenger?" Daniel asked, his heart quickening with anticipation. The angel replied, "You shall witness a time when kings shall rise and fall, and the pursuit of righteousness will be like a flickering flame in the night. The kings of the south and the north shall contend with one another, a source of great turmoil for many. But fear not, for the hand of God will guide his chosen as his might is unmatched." The angel continued, "In those days the might of the Archangel Michael will be paramount. He will stand guard over your people, wielding the sword of truth against the forces of darkness. There shall be a great uprising, as the faithful rise to reclaim their inheritance, and those who remain steadfast shall see the glory of God revealed." Daniel, overwhelmed yet emboldened by this assurance, sought to understand the specifics of these manifestations. Will my people be delivered in this turmoil? How shall we recognize the hand of God amid such chaos? "Indeed, Daniel," the angel affirmed, "your people shall endure a time of testing, but they will emerge as gold purified by fire. The faithful will stand firm against falsehoods and idolatries that will rise in that era. Michael shall be their shield. He will rally them to prayer and unity, igniting a fire of faith in their hearts." With each revelation, Daniel sensed the stirring of hope, a flicker amidst the darkness. What must we do in these times of trial? "You must proclaim the truths of the Most High," the angel urged. "Encourage your brethren to hold fast to their faith and to seek wisdom from above. For those who seek him shall be found by him, and those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength." These are the words of the prophet, Isaiah 40:31. Prepare their hearts for the coming days, for God's deliverance will be upon those who dream of his sanctuary. With awe and a renewed spirit, Daniel looked upon the angel, recognizing that the vision was not just for him alone, but for the whole of Israel. The destiny of God's people was woven intricately into the fabric of history, and through Michael's leadership, they would be restored. As the angel began to fade, a final word lingered in the air. "The time is at hand, Daniel. The unfolding of God's sovereign plan shall soon be made manifest. Be watchful, For miracles shall abound in the land, and many shall come to know the glory of the Lord. Daniel remained standing, captivated by the promise that echoed in his heart. What wonders would the coming days unveil? And as the dawn broke over Babylon, he felt an insatiable thirst to understand the full extent of God's divine purposes, as new revelations awaited just beyond the horizon. As the dawn's first light pierced through the chambers of Babylon, Daniel's heart brimmed with expectancy. He rose early and sought the quietude of his room, a sacred space where he often communed with God. The words of the angel echoed in his mind like a melody that would not fade. The time is at hand. The unfolding of God's sovereign plan shall soon be made manifest. His thoughts turned to the faithful remnant still dwelling in their midst. How would they receive the news of what was to come? Would they hearken to the call to prayer and righteousness? With renewed zeal, Daniel took up his pen, determined to inscribe the revelations that had been entrusted to him. O God of my fathers, he prayed anew, give me the wisdom to share what you have shown me, that my people might prepare their hearts for the trials ahead. In the days that followed, as tumult brewed outside the walls of the city, Daniel's prophecies began to take shape. He sensed the stirring of mighty forces, both earthly and celestial. Kingdoms were being shaken. The kings of the north prepared their armies against those of the south. He saw in visions all manner of conflict, drawn blades flashing amidst the shadows of ambition and treachery. Yet within this chaos, Daniel also glimpsed the figure of Michael, the archangel, standing resolute above the strife. Clad in armor of light, he wielded a sword that gleamed with divine authority. In that instant, a deep, resounding peace enveloped Daniel, assuring him that the Lord's hand was with his people, even in the midst of uproar. Blessed are those who take refuge in him, Daniel whispered, a conviction filling his spirit. He gathered the elders of his people, men who had lived through exile and hardship, men whose hearts still knew the God of their fathers. Brothers, hear me, he began with a voice that stirred the air. The days ahead will bring testing, yet it is a divine test. The Lord our God has not forgotten us. Indeed, he will unleash his mighty warrior Michael to stand beside us in our rightful inheritance. A murmur of concern rippled through the assembly. Will we see deliverance, Daniel? Will we not fall to the whims of those who oppress us? They inquired, fear blending with hope. Do not be afraid, he implored with steadfast courage. For the Lord has declared, those who trust in me shall not be ashamed. Isaiah 49:23. Prepare your hearts, brothers. Cast away the idols of complacency and fear, for we are destined for a victory that is birthed in faith and obedience. Days turned into weeks, and as conflict surged like a storm, the remnant began to gather for prayer with fervor, ignited by Daniel's declaration. They sought the Lord day and night, their voices united as a symphony of desperation and devotion. While Babylon's walls trembled with the rumble of distant armies, Daniel remained steadfast in his watch, seeking further insight from the Lord. He felt the divine current flowing through the air, whispering secrets yet to be revealed. Then in the stillness of a night bathed in starlight, a voice echoed through the silence. It was the same voice of the angel, reverberating like the sound of a trumpet calling him forth. Daniel, arise. A great vision is yours to behold. The destiny of nations hangs in the balance, and my sovereign plan unfolds with each passing moment. Daniel trembled, filled with awe and anticipation. What could this vision reveal? The very future of God's people was poised on the edge of revelation, and soon he would see with new eyes. Would the Archangel Michael indeed lead them in battle? And what else of God's purposes awaited their discovery? For the truth remained, the world was about to witness how the Almighty God, in his sovereign grace, would transform despair into triumph. As the twilight cast its hue over the city of Babylon, Daniel remained kneeling in prayer, fervently seeking sanctum among the shadows of uncertainty. The hour of revelation was upon him, and his heart beat in rhythm with the anticipatory silence. Suddenly, the air thickened with a weight of sacred significance, and in that stillness, the voice of the angel resonated anew, beckoning him into a realm beyond the veil of mortal understanding. "Behold, Daniel," the voice heralded, both gentle and commanding. "The time has arrived for you to witness the conflict that shall transpire, a struggle not only of flesh and blood, but of principalities and powers." Daniel straightened, straining his senses to perceive the unfolding vision. Before his eyes, a scene emerged, pulsating with divine light, a battlefield beyond earthly comprehension. Armies clashed, their fury echoing with the sound of thunder, and in the center stood Michael the Archangel, his countenance radiant and fierce. His presence cut through the chaos like a beacon of hope. "Michael," Daniel breathed, recognizing the might of his guardian and the embodiment of God's sentinels. The Archangel raised his sword, its blade gleaming with an ethereal glow, and with each swing, darkness recoiled, the oppressive fog of despair lifting from the hearts of the faithful. "Daniel, fear not," Michael spoke, his voice a clarion call of courage. "For I have been sent to secure the deliverance of your people. Nations will rise and fall, but the Lord's hand shall rest upon those who trust in him." With that, the vision expanded, showcasing the geopolitical convulsions that would ripple through kingdoms and empires. The kings of the earth plotted in vain, assembling their armies, blind to their destined collapse. In his heart, Daniel discerned the weight of the prophecy. These were not mere events foretold. They were the stepping stones of God's sovereign narrative unraveling for all creation to behold. "Yet amidst the turmoil, a remnant shall emerge," the Archangel continued, his gaze piercing through the veil of time into the hearts of the faithful. "Their faith shall cultivate a light that will shine through the darkest of nights, proclaiming that the Lord our God is a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him." Nahum 1:7. As Daniel drank in this profound truth, he witnessed a glimpse of the future, where calamity gave way to hope and despair transformed into divine assurance. The faithful, once trembling in fear, stood resolute, casting their burdens upon the Lord, emboldened by Michael's presence. In a swell of emotion, Daniel grasped the significance of the moment. He saw himself among the people, leading them in solemn prayer, invoking the power of the Almighty to shield them from the impending storm. "My heart rejoices for the promise of renewal," he cried aloud, his words echoing into the stillness of his chamber. "The Lord shall restore his people. We shall return to him with shouts of praise. Prepare your hearts, for the outpouring of his Spirit will rain upon us like the morning dew." The fervency of his voice pierced the darkness, igniting a flame of hope among the faithful remnant. Each soul lifted their hands in surrender, uniting as one under the banner of divine protection, believing that even in the valley of the shadow, they would fear no evil. As the vision began to fade, Michael gazed upon Daniel with the steadfast assurance of heaven, an eternal promise etched into the fabric of the cosmos. "Remember, Daniel, the true battle belongs to the Lord," he declared, fading slowly from view as his light enveloped the shadows. Left in the hushed aftermath of glory and torrents of revelation, Daniel fell prostrate, tears of faith mingling with gratitude. Then, in the depths of his spirit, he felt the weight of yet another mystery. The divine design, intricate and unfathomable, beckoned him onward. And what of the kingdoms yet to rise, and the hearts yet to be tested? Thus the revelation of God's plan lingered before him like a tapestry unfurling, an invitation to anticipation, for in the heart of tribulation lay the seeds of divine transformation. What he would soon discover would shake the very foundations of his understanding, reminding him that God's mighty warrior was not just for battle, but for the ultimate restoration of his people. As the dawn crept over the horizon, casting its golden rays upon the land, Daniel awoke still filled with the celestial visions that had visited him in the night. His heart soared with new understanding, yet a solemn weight lingered as the echoes of Michael's message resonated within him. The future of his people lay woven in the fabric of God's unfailing promises, but uncertainty still clouded the path ahead. He rose from his place of prayer, the remnants of the divine encounter lingering in the air. Shaking off the remnants of sleep, Daniel made his way to the riverbanks where he often sought solitude. The waters flowed with a steady rhythm, a reminder of God's faithfulness that would not wane, unlike the ever-changing tides of earthly kings. As he sat by the river, pondering the fate of the kingdoms and the revelations which had been unveiled, he sensed the presence of another. A figure approached, clothed in garments of brightness, with a countenance that radiated wisdom and serenity. It was an envoy from the courts of heaven. "Daniel," the figure spoke softly, "I am sent to you with words of assurance, for the Lord has not abandoned his people." The figure paused, allowing the gravitas of the moment to settle in Daniel's heart. "Speak, O messenger of the Most High," Daniel urged, his spirit yearning for clarity. "What further truths have you from the Lord?" "The time of purging and trial shall indeed come," the messenger proclaimed, "for the nations shall rage, and the kingdom shall be brought low. But take heart, for those who walk in righteousness shall be distinguished in the sight of God. They shall be like trees planted by the streams of water, which yield their fruit in season, and their leaves shall not wither. Whatever they do shall prosper." Psalm 1:3. With each pronouncement, hope began to bloom anew within Daniel's heart. The assurance that God had an unwavering plan for his people fortified his resolve to remain steadfast in faith. "But tell me," he inquired, "what of the remnant? How shall they endure the trials ahead?" The heavenly messenger's eyes shimmered with compassion. "The remnant shall be equipped with strength beyond measure, for it is not by their might that they will stand, but by the Spirit of the Lord. The trials shall refine them, as silver is purified, and through their faithfulness the knowledge of God shall fill the earth as the waters cover the sea." Habakkuk 2:14. "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day," the figure continued, drawing from the well of divine promises to instill courage in Daniel's heart. "For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways." Psalm 91:5-11. In that moment, a vivid clarity enveloped Daniel's mind. He saw not just his own situation, but the larger tapestry of God's plan extending through the ages, a plan to gather a people unto himself, to make known his glory and grace, and to establish a kingdom that would stand forever. As the messenger prepared to depart, Daniel felt a stirring in his spirit. "Will there be a time, O messenger, when the full measure of God's promise will be revealed? When will we see the culmination of this divine battle?" The figure turned, their face shining with the light of God's promise. "The time is known only to the Father, but know this: for every challenge the world shall face, there is a greater victory awaiting through the outpouring of God's Spirit and the unwavering faith of his people. A day will come when all shall be made new, and the sound of praise will rise like incense before the throne." With that, as suddenly as he had arrived, the messenger was gone. Daniel was left alone, struck by the profound truth that God's sovereign hand was intricately at work, urging him ever deeper into the mystery of faith. His thoughts surged forward, grasping the essence of the divine invitation that had been laid before him. What marvels lie ahead? What further revelations await those willing to tread the path of obedience and courage? For in the shadows of uncertainty, God's sovereign blueprint was being drawn. Daniel began to understand that though the trials were imminent, the promise of glory awaited, a revelation that would reshape the world eternally. The great story was still being written, and he was but a humble servant, called to participate in the unfolding of God's magnificent plan. In the twilight of Babylon, a stirring of the Spirit filled the air as the day of reckoning approached. It was a season ripe with anticipation, and Daniel, faithful servant of the Most High, remained steadfast in prayer. The revelations of years past weighed upon him, the prophecies of deliverance and renewal, the watchful Archangel Michael, that mighty warrior tasked with guarding the children of Israel. As he sought the Lord, a vision washed over him like a torrential flood. The skies above opened, and there unveiled a glorious panoramic tableau of both despair and hope, a reminder of all that had come to pass and of all that awaited in the providence of God. The tumultuous rising and falling of empires traced a path before his eyes, for the hearts of kings were laid bare before the throne of the Almighty. "Daniel," echoed the celestial voice, "do you see what is unfolding? The throne of heaven stands eternal, even as kingdoms clash and demonic forces seek to thwart the divine plan. Yes, Lord, Daniel responded, trembling yet emboldened. I see it. I see the conflict, the struggle, the deliverance that your faithful shall experience.
Indeed, the angel continued, for the time of trial shall give birth to triumph. Watch as I send forth Michael, the great prince, to battle on behalf of your people. No weapon formed against them shall prosper, for the Lord your God shall defend their cause.
At that moment Daniel perceived Michael descending from the heavenly heights, a figure of resplendence, a radiance that outshone all earthly glory. Surrounding him were legions of angels, their voices joining in a mighty chorus proclaiming victory, proclaiming truth and love. Arise, O remnant of Israel. Michael's voice thundered like the sound of many waters. For the Most High has heard your cries and gathered your prayers as incense before his altar. Strengthen your hearts, for deliverance is near. A wave of courage surged through Daniel's spirit, filling every fiber of his being. He envisioned the exiled people responding to the call, the humble, the grieving, the doubting, together lifting their voices in unison to the God of their fathers. The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Psalm 46:1. The scene shifted, revealing the climactic battle, the armies of darkness raging against the forces of light. Daniel witnessed the coalescing of nations as they readied themselves to oppose the faithful. Yet amid the chaos he saw Michael, wielding the sword of justice, emboldening the Israelites into action. Stand firm, beloved ones, for though trials will surely come, remember the words of your God, Michael urged. Fear not. He who watches over you neither slumbers nor sleeps. Psalm 121:4. In his sovereign timing, he will reveal his ultimate victory through you. With that declaration, Daniel observed a transformation in the hearts of his people. Hope began to ignite like wildfire, an unquenchable flame kindled by the promise of salvation. They rose in fervent prayer, a chorus filling the heavens with cries for mercy and strength, touching the very heart of God. And in that moment of pure faith the skies erupted with divine light, illuminating the path before them. The chains of oppression began to fall away, and the glory of the Lord descended like rain, blessing the land. As the victory resonated, the messenger at Daniel's side proclaimed, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Proverbs 3:5-6. Awakened by the unfolding of divine purpose, Daniel turned toward his people, his heart swelling with assurance. Beloved, the time of redemption has come. Trust in the Lord your God. He is faithful to fulfill his promises. We have persevered in hope, and now is the hour for which we have prayed. With their spirits bolstered, the faithful joined Daniel in prayer, casting their burdens upon the Lord. In a storm of praise they proclaimed his goodness, unleashed the praises of their lips, and stepped boldly into the annals of history, relinquishing their fears into his mighty hands. And as day surrendered to night, the battle was won in the heavenly realms. Michael, victorious and radiant, stood before the throne with his sword raised high, a declaration of unyielding faith. And from the heavens, the Lord spoke a promise. Behold, I make all things new. Revelation 21:5. Thus the faithful remnant emerged from captivity, casting aside the shackles of despair. They moved forward, emboldened by the testimonies of divine intervention, their hearts set ablaze by the Spirit of God. The walls of Babylon began to crumble, and the echoes of their liberation reverberated through eternity, the story of their deliverance etched forever in the annals of faith. As Daniel looked upon his people, spirits restored and faith renewed, he understood. Every tear, every prayer, every moment of struggle had woven together a tapestry of divine promise. The sovereign plan of God, unfolding across generations, would ultimately lead to the fullness of redemption in Christ, the promised deliverer. And for every heart tuned to the whispers of divine calling, every soul willing to believe, the profound truth remained unshaken. In every trial the Almighty reigns, and his enduring love would always triumph. Let that truth resonate in our hearts as we carry the story forward, bound by faith and a collective hope that draws us nearer still to the heart of God. The hour is now, for your faith is pivotal in this time. He is calling you to arise, to stand firm, and proclaim with vigor the wonders of His love and saving grace. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that have transformed lives through His Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, that many may come to know His love. Comment your reflections below. How has this biblical account impacted your faith journey? Share instantly this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, and only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach more souls for Christ. Don't wait even one more second. Rise up and join the story of redemption.